Okay, so I've realized something, that whenever we talk about parents, this is fun, but I get a little triggered.
Yeah. What's up, y'all? It's Ashley.
I'm Fee.
It's Melanie.
And Cody here, and you've tapped into
The Mama's Den.
Good morning, mamas.
Good morning.
And all listeners of all ages and all genders, motherhood status or not, we
I feel like I don't know
welcome
where to
you.
put my foot today.
Me too.
I'm in,
my foot
I'm,
in
I'm
your way?
between. No, it's not. It's
I
just
have long legs.
you do. You're tall.
Do you want me to cross that way?
No, I want you to be comfortable.
Oh, the
I'm
sweetness.
It's okay. I'll just kick Cody throughout that. episode.
Oh,
Just be like,
sure. That's fine.
Cody. No.
And for those watching us on YouTube, you can see our feet fight. But for real, today we are so excited. We have a brand new guest in the his house. Well, I can't say the his house. You know what? I have on my skinny jeans like a millennial. You can see my ankles like a millennial. I changed my part today, trying to
love
Gen
this
Z
for
it up
you.
a little bit.
Come on,
You know what I
middle part
mean?
His house.
So yeah, I'm old.
Is a middle part a Gen Z thing?
A middle part is yes. The young people prefer the middle part.
Oh, I guess I'm a young person.
No,
Yeah.
no. Our
What?
generation. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were talking about, you know how we used to do a side part,
Yeah.
and then little
And a
kids
swoop.
got
Used
on
to,
the
like,
tickety
this
talk
morning.
and was like, "Don't do that. That's so old." Da, 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 da.
I
Yeah, they
know.
were going in on a side part. No, I've never been a side part girl, but yeah,
What you felt for me?
I love a side part on certain people. I just feel like my part needs to be symmetrical with my head. It
I hear
bothers
you.
me if it's over here. It's weird.
Like balance.
Yeah,
Well,
it's weird.
I
Like,
I
what's
like
happening?
symmetry as well.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Although I do love an old school side swoop though sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Side
A little
part.
slick side part. Aaliyah.
I could never do that.
slick.
Oh, slick. Oh yeah, I'm going
Yeah,
90s.
I don't slick it.
Dark lipstick, everything.
She said, I don't slick it.
No.
We're
but
getting off topic.
Here in the den, we like to talk about whatever we want to talk about. But we first want to introduce our guest. So when y'all hear her voice, you can understand A, our excitement, and B, that there's another voice. So Mrs. Nina Westbrook. Well, what I'm going to say first that you are a mom of 3, including twins. You are a licensed marriage and family therapist. And you have a podcast called the Do Tell Podcast and the Do Tell Card Game. And you are married to Russell Westbrook. You know, whoever that is.
It's a tongue twister.
It is.
Westbrook.
It
And she's
is.
also a Capricorn.
Yeah.
And she's a
thank
Capricorn.
God.
I know
We
Ashley's
only
very.
have one other Cap with us.
Yes,
today.
they're all water.
And she's
signs.
really excited to
Look
have
at her
you.
face. Ashley's been throwing a lot of shade our way these
Just
days.
overwhelming for me.
Well,
No, Tiffany,
I'm
our
here.
producer, is a Capricorn too.
Okay, so today we're tight.
Yes.
Yes.
Water and earth. Look
You're
at
going to
us.
have her back because she loves to shade us.
We're here. You can never leave a Cap hanging.
Well, welcome to Nina. We're super excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with everybody. This is fun. I feel like we're gonna have a good little chat.
Yeah, me
Wait,
too.
how old are your children?
My girls are 5. They're twins, and then they're the same age as Cody's kids.
Oh,
essentially,
cute.
my son just turned 7 though. He's a little bit younger.
Well, Brooks is 7, but he'll be 8 in October.
Okay.
Oh,
But
wait.
the crazy,
Noah's birthday was last weekend, and my child, he's a Taurus. He thinks that his birthday is a weekend, like it's several days.
I mean,
It is.
It
Is
is.
it not?
It is.
Tell him it's not.
I'm not used to that because, like, I could care less really about my birthday. I'm not a big birthday person, and my child, he thinks, and so it's interesting.
It's
He's
because
7.
of you all. You've done that to him.
No. I
Why
try
does he
not
think
to. I
that?
don't even buy my kids gifts. Like, we don't even discuss it anymore. Like, we don't do gifts.
It's like y'all have everything you need.
Really?
No, I'm not a gift buyer. That's not my love language. So
Where did he get the multi-day birthday?
people, everyone else, that's the thing.
Yeah,
When you have
okay,
kids
that's
and you
fair.
have like a good family support, lots of friends,
Mm-hmm.
like they will make your kid's birthday a way bigger deal than it needs to be. And so you don't need to do anything.
That's
Okay,
fair.
is he? I have questions. Is he like the first of anything? Grandchildren, boy, like?
He's the first grandchild on my husband's side.
Okay.
He's not the first boy,
Okay.
but he's our first boy.
Yeah.
And so I think it works out really well. Honestly, I was nervous about having a 1 and then 2 because I don't like the competition thing. I try to limit that as best I can. But because the girls are twins, they're cute. And because he's the only boy, he's cute. So it's a healthy, good balance. And they're both and all 3 special in their own way.
Sorry, I missed it. How old are your twins?
5.
5.
So we all have kids around the same age. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have like 5-year-olds and 6, 7-year-olds. Yeah.
Did you have the 3 under 3 also?
Yeah, girl. I had
3 under. Oh
3
my
under 2.
gosh.
I had
mine were
2 and
3.
under. When they were born, Brooks was
3
2.
under 2?
So it was
I
2,
had 3
2 and
under
under.
2.
Yeah.
No one was
So then
18
it was
months.
3 under 3 and all that.
I had 2 under 2. It's very insane.
I wasn't about to do that.
My kids are 6 years apart. Thank you very
The same
much.
thing. I'm like, no.
Wait, I want to go back to something really quick. How did you get on have you always been like even when your children were first born, you didn't, like their first couple birthdays, you didn't buy them gifts? Like, have you always been this way, or did something happen?
I have.
Okay.
I'm not a birthday person.
Okay.
Not that I like to celebrate other people when it's their birthday, but I like to celebrate by spending time with them and doing something special and making memories rather than gift giving. My mom, to this day, she buys me Starbucks gift cards for $10 for or $20 for Christmas, my birthday, whatever, because she knows that just being able to go get coffee is way more special to me than
That's awesome.
You're like experiential person.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just love it. And like my kids are like that too, but that's the problem. Like my son, I didn't buy him a gift. He wanted to go to Disneyland. He actually wanted to go to Mexico for his birthday.
That's right.
So I was like, well.
Let me check my calendar, Mom. Yeah, we're free. We can go.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
so
I
they
think
know
he
not
gets
to
that
expect
from
gifts.
me.
That's good.
They don't even ask for gifts.
love
Like they ask to
that.
do
I love that
things,
too.
Yeah.
which is really nice.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, we're about to have a switcheroo. We do gifts. I mean, I don't, frankly. Tommy does, and everyone else. So I truly am just like,
You
it's
don't have
fine.
to.
You're good. You know, I give them a good time.
No, we do limited gifts. We typically ask them if you want to do something. Like, would you like to have a party, or do you want to go somewhere instead? We go to Disney every year. I think they've been going to other people's kids' birthday parties where they're like, they've never had a birthday party before. My middles never, or the 3 youngest. Only my oldest has. So they were like, wait, I think I want to have a birthday party. And I was like, oh, no, I hate them.
Welcome to the club.
And I was gonna say, I feel like, pieces. How old is my child?
9.
9? She's almost 10, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I was gonna say 8. But the older that she, I know, I'm like, oh Jesus.
I know.
The older that she gets, the more, like this last birthday, I was like, okay, invite this amount of friends. And it was the experience. She wanted to go to like Benihana and the little jump house thingy, you know? But I'm definitely on the let's do an experience. And maybe it's like, I don't know, the older she gets, I'm like, okay, 2 friends now.
Yeah.
One friend now. Like,
Depends
you
on
know?
the experience, child. Well, okay, I do want to get into something though, because I don't know. Nina is a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Which is fascinating.
Very riveting.
I know. I love
knew
this
you-
about her.
Okay, really quickly. So this was maybe like 3 years ago, and everybody was looking for a Black therapist. And I don't know, I randomly came across your page, and that's how I like first knew who you were, was literally telling people like, oh, you should go to this therapist or this therapist. So you
that's
might have a
really
couple
nice.
people that if you still open your books. But that's, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's incredible. So anyways, back to what you're saying.
Well, no, I would just, will you share a little bit about how that has transformed for you?
And how did you get into it? Because low-key, I've always wanted to be a therapist. I might maybe in one point in my life.
Why not?
You know, but like I find it fascinating when people actually embark upon it, and also you're married, and how that like I'm fascinated to know how it plays into your life.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people in the field kind of grow up or in this space where they're in their friendships, they're that like one person who's just so even keel that everybody wants to talk to them, right? I think I'm really good at being objective and just being a good listener. And I feel like that's who I was growing up. I also have 3 brothers, no sisters, which meant that there was a lot of maturity and like kind of nurturing and just all of those instincts played out in my relationships growing up. And so I feel like it just kind of naturally stumbled upon me. I love talking to people. As much as I'm an introvert, I do like intimate spaces. I kind of thrive in that space. And so I felt like it just was right along with me and it was natural. And so I started practicing, going to school, doing all the things I needed to do. I got licensed, which was a long journey and process because I was moving around from state to state with Russell, which was hard. And then my dream was always to have a private practice, and then like life happens, you have to pivot. And I decided instead of opening a private practice, I'm just going to start this online community where I can be of service to as many people as I possibly can. And so I've been doing that with B'nai by Nina.
That's amazing. What does that look like?
Well, we offer free resources, mental health resources. I think the whole ethos of B'nai by Nina is to bring people mental health and wellness information in a very digestible and everyday way. I think a lot of times the idea of going to therapy can be quite intimidating for a lot of people. So I wanted to, especially for communities of color, so what I wanted to do is create this space and create resources that can help other people understand that like the decisions that they're making throughout their daily lives will have a significant impact on their mental health and wellness. And there's small things that we can all do to be mentally well. And so that's what we focus on doing. We have workshops. I have the card game Do Tell, which is like a fun, I don't know if you guys have played. I should have brought some games.
We should do it here.
I know.
We have one.
It's a really fun way for people to open up, start dialogues and have different conversations that you might not normally have. And it's just a lot less intense maybe than therapy, and it gives people the space to be really vulnerable. And when we're vulnerable, we can connect and we can reach people where they are and find similarities and commonalities with each other. So card game workshops, free resources.
Now, the question that everyone wants to know is, are you really able to stay in your therapist bag when these kids be trying? Because that is what I want to know.
You know what? I do my best. Kids are growing up, you know, we kind of all experience different things with our parents. And I don't really think it matters how therapeutic I am or what I do. My kid is going to have something growing up. Like they're going to figure out some way to have some issue with something that I was doing, right? So the best thing that I can do is try my best to mirror or model the type of skills that they're going to need to navigate their lives and teach them just to be kind and open and generous people. And I feel like everything else will kind of fall into place. So I do my best. I mean, and then if I do have a moment, like we talk about it, we are so big on, you know, making mistakes and talking about them afterwards, because our kids have put us on a pedestal, both my husband and I. And that has a lot to do with, you know, being in the public eye and having, when you're going to school and all your friends are talking about your parents, and you start to believe what the other kids are saying about your parents, right? And so I think that being human and teaching them, like, we make mistakes, this is how we apologize and show that we're sorry and we correct them and move on, I think is a thing. So when I'm going off and yelling at them or whatever the case may be, like, we come back and we talk about it and we hug and we kiss and we make up and we move forward.
I love that.
I'm just looking at you because I'm like, I have never seen you yell, and I have been with you and your children. I have never seen you go off on anybody.
It's not off. Like, right. I try to talk to them like this. I'm usually talking like this, and they're usually screaming and yelling at me. And me trying to reason. I don't like therapy with kids because I have like too much reason inside of me, and I'm like, I understand that you need something right now. Do you have to scream at me? Girl. Or can we talk in a regular voice? And they're screaming and yelling. And it takes them a moment, but then they realize, I guess I don't have to yell. And then they calm down.
I have a question. I have so many questions. You're a therapist. I have so many questions. Okay, because I feel like sometimes when I'm with my kids, I really do try to speak and be calm. And then sometimes it's like by the time third, fourth time I've said something, it's almost like I yell because I'm like, hey, Like I've spoken at this level, and now I feel like I have to raise my volume to get your attention, to almost like startle you out of like wherever you were at, you know? And I don't know if that's the right or wrong approach. It's not like really what my question is. It's just that I find that that's my go-to, because I grew up in a household where it was yelling. Like my mom yelled for everything. So I think that's, I know, like a natural response that I have. So I try to be really mindful about speaking to my kids, but like my son will just tune me out. And it's like, I have to literally raise the volume of my voice for him to be like, oh, she really means it, but I don't want to have to get there. So like how...
It's so funny that you say that, because, one thing that I like to think about is, again, I go back to the modeling thing, and I feel like, what do you want your child to learn when they're in the same situation as you?
True.
And what do you want them to do when they're feeling like they're not being heard? How do you want them to respond? You have to kind of mirror that. It's so funny because this morning Jordan was totally ignoring me. I told her, go wash your hands and bring me a towel, because she spilled oatmeal all over her sweater. And she was playing and like smacking her brother who was eating, and they were playing together. And I said it 3 times in a very calm voice. I said, Jordan, Jordan. And Jordan, can you please follow directions? And she ignored me. I said, Jordan, okay, so you're gonna go to bed 15 minutes early tonight. She looked at me and started screaming immediately. I never had to yell.
Right.
Sometimes I do yell. Like, I think there's a time and a place. Like, if in order to keep my kids safe, I will scream at anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and if they are doing something that I know is gonna harm them, either now or later in the future, then I will yell to get their attention, to make sure that they know that I'm serious and I'm not playing, and this is a big deal. There's no right or wrong way. I think that, like I said, the best thing that I can do is so funny. There's so many people who are doing so many things to get their point across and to be heard, that I would say are probably defense mechanisms and different, it's just not the healthiest way as adults.
Right.
That's what fuels me. I'm like, what are my kids gonna be doing? And my girls are Scorpios like their dad, and I'm like, I don't know what to. They want to yell and scream all the time at me. So I'm like, I don't know who y'all are gonna marry, but I'm gonna try to help them. I'm gonna try to help them out right now.
Yes.
And so I feel like, just being a model and taking a step. I talk to my kids all the time when I'm getting really frustrated. I'm like, I don't want to yell at you, but you're making it really difficult for me. I would like to just have to tell you once, maybe twice.
Right.
I don't want to yell at you, but you're making it very hard for me when you behave this way. Like, I tell them that. Like, do you want me to have to yell at you in order to get you to do something? And they're like, no.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Posing
they're
the
smart.
question.
Like,
Do it anyway.
you can reason with them to a certain extent when it's not a crisis. But it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of patience. Like, it's almost like shutting down that part of yourself that want that fight or flight, shutting down that fight and the flight. You kind of just have to operate from a space of peace.
One thing that I've been doing with the kids lately is like, I don't remember my mom yelling until she had my little brother, which is ironic because she never yelled, never cussed. And then when she had him, I was like, ooh, you are a different person. He brought out a different kind of energy in her. But with them, like when they ignore me, I remember my mom, like I vividly remember my mom like ignoring us sometimes. Like we would just, mom, and she would not respond. And then after a while she would be like, oh, you don't like that, do you? And so now I've been kind of trying to, because of the common talking, whatever, it's not working. So I have just been showing them by example. Like when they don't listen to me, I just don't listen to them. And they get so mad at me. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel good when someone you love is ignoring you. That's how I feel. So like I try to help them understand in the moment when they're feeling that way. But a lot of it is like conflict resolution within each other. It's not even like me. They don't yell at me because they know better, in a way where I'll just look at them like, oh, who are we talking to? Even my teenager. Like she's been lately just talking to me and her dad with a lot of bravado in her tone. And I'm just like, I just walk away. And she'll be like, Mom, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, you're not talking to me like that. And I keep telling her, like, I don't let my friends talk to me like that, so you can't either. I'll just stop talking to you. Like, when you bring your tone down, then we can have a conversation. But with the little ones, one of my children, she gets so upset, like when her sister is doing stuff to her and she doesn't listen to her. And I keep telling her, walk away from her. You don't have to play with her. Because I'm also trying to teach her the tools of, like, when you get upset, when someone's disrespecting you, remove yourself from the situation instead of acting like a crazy person. You know, she's like, well, she's not listening to me. And I'm like, yeah, but now you look crazy. And she's over there like quietly disturbing you. So like remove yourself and don't play with her and teach her she can't disrespect you. So, I mean, it's hard, but it's like you kind of just have to keep on doing the same thing every day until one day it kicks in.
And I like giving them a consequence.
Yeah.
Like, I'm horrible at giving them consequences.
Me too.
Like, I feel like I can only do it when there's been like an egregious, you know, like somebody stole something at the store. You know, like, okay, that's a very clear.
Be stealing, girl.
Just the one time. Just the one time. But, you know, it's a very clear, like, okay, you need to know that that's wrong and here's your consequence. But I am definitely guilty of like, the fourth time I've said something, it is now much louder and firmer.
Yeah.
And then ultimately they're like, why did you yell at me? And I'm like, bruh, because I said it 3 times.
Firm voice? Let me hear this voice.
I have all the voices. You've heard my dad voice.
And that's a joke. That's a joke.
That never works.
It will not work.
Nothing works. Like literally. I don't even know what I'm doing that fourth time. It's just every time. I'm
Trying
like,
everything, so
right.
you do every time.
But I really truly haven't even gone to like, tonight you're going to bed 15 minutes early. Like literally, I am really bad at the consequences.
Oh yeah, she'd be like, "We're turning the night light off. You don't get no night
play.
music. You don't get no night story." Like,
Yeah, mine will be in my
consequence
face in the next room if I do
I feel
all
like
that.
dads are better at doing that.
Yeah, they just.
Yeah.
Or you're good at that.
Yeah.
No, Mel.
Oh, I'm a consequence queen.
Yeah.
I mean, she trashed the
play.
boys' toys, remember?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. It was right.
Wait, what happened?
Go on ahead.
Okay. So I got tired of my son not respecting the space, the room that we clean, we keep organized, all of it. And it was in a season where I was like unwell and my mom was there and his dad was out of town. And I could just tell he was pushing all the limits to just not participate in being responsible for himself. So I took all of his toys and put them in trash bags and told him that you have books and you have a bed. And I was like, and until you prove to me that you have respect for what you have, you will not have access to these toys. And I left them in trash bags in his room. I didn't throw them out, but he did not have access to them until I gave him permission back to have them. And when we did, we purged, we donated, and we started to really reflect on how much stuff you had, how much you really want, and how much you really need, and truly how much do you really want it and respect it to take care of it. And also respect the efforts that your dad and I do to work hard to give you things that you want and a comfortable space and for you to be responsible for your toys. You're 8 years old. And so I put them in the trash bags. I sure did. And it's funny because I think it comes back to how I was raised too. And, you know, I want my son to understand, like, there are actions, there are consequences, there are reactions, and you are responsible for how you show up in any relationship with anybody that you're in. And so it did make an impact. The other day he came home, and I can't remember what happened, but he said to his aunt, he was like, my mom's going to take all my stuff away again.
But this was like January, by the way. This
But
was
you taught
4
him.
months ago that
Yeah,
you
this
did
was 4
that.
months ago, and
That's good.
he said it again.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really, it's a really important lesson in setting boundaries and teaching kids about consequences and what that looks like. And even if you had a conversation with him before and was like, either you're going to do this or this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And like, I like to give my kids choices like that and let them decide. And if they choose, I make them very aware. Like, if you choose
This was
to
your
do
choice.
this,
Yeah.
it's not a result of anything that I've done. This is something we'd agreed upon, and this was your decision.
That's good.
And so that they can like learn accountability.
Accountability.
And like they're also learning that you have boundaries, and when you say something, you mean it.
Yes.
And whether they follow through with it or not, there will be positive consequences or negative consequences, and they get to choose.
Yes.
The choices was a game changer for us. So both of my children, we have a therapist for them, and it was at a time where my son, sweet little boy over there, he was just challenging us on another level, and we knew we didn't have the tools, so we were like, we need to hire someone to come in, and she changed our lives. We talk about Marnisha all the time, but we noticed a huge difference with it's either this or it's that. What you want to do? Because what I kept doing as a mom is I would overly explain myself. I would overly, I don't know, just express my frustration of whatever it was that was going on. And I think it's so important for us as parents overall to really show them that there are consequences. Because I tell my kids all the time, you can learn this consequence right here in our home, because when you go out into the world and you get older, it might not look the same. You know what I mean? And for them to really understand that that's what reality is like there's consequences that come with the actions that you're doing. This one, my son, I'm talking low. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, then you'll be able to see.
Because he's in the next room.
He woke up this morning and literally just punched his sister in the face while she was still sleeping.
Not the face.
And I was like, so she jumps up. She jumps out. And mind you, he's such a little brother. He jumps up she jumps up and she was like, don't hit me. Like, Zen, what the heck? And I asked her, I'm like, what happened? She told me what happened. And I was like, sir, not today. I'm trying not to say, but this morning was one of them screaming ones. I was like, nah, you got to get screamed out on this one. Cause it was just so like, what's happening? So he's here on a mental health day today cause he needed a moment.
Good for you, Fee, though.
Yeah. I was like, sir, but it's, yeah.
Well, wait, so what is the consequence for him punching her in the face, though? Like, because he's here on a mental health day, because like there's the love where you're like, I recognize that you are obviously having a bad day, so I'm gonna keep you home, love on you, but also like, is there a consequence for him doing that when he gets home? Do you know what I mean? Because we don't keep punching people in the face.
Yeah, it's that iPad right now. He has the iPad so that he can sit here and chill.
Because you gotta work.
And I told him, I'm like, you don't get the iPad for the rest of the week. And he, oh my god, his life is upside down. The iPad is the thing. Like, what? Yeah, it's taken away. That and the TV and. He'll be like, okay, I don't want to do that anymore. Yeah. But it's the consequences that make him stay in line of those boundaries. And, you know what I mean?
And giving the choice, because like children are always trying to exercise their right? Yeah. They want to decide. We're constantly bossing them and telling them everything, their schedule, everything we kind of determine for them. So when we give them an opportunity to choose something, it could be two things that we have decided, but letting them pick at least lets them feel like they have some kind of control over their life and what they're doing, and that makes them happy, and it also makes them more susceptible to like following through and when they feel like it's their decision.
Wait, mine might be quick. I think it's quick. I know that you are a marriage and family therapist, but does that include expertise in parenting? And I say that because you have it. You are a parent, but there is obviously a really clear like understanding of how children's minds work. And so I think about the marriage piece, but
that's the family.
It's the scope. So the scope of a marriage and family therapist
about the coursework.
is to deal with like family structures. And so marriage sounds, that's the glaring word.
Yeah.
But really it's about the different like dynamics between families and relationships. It doesn't have to be families. It's just any relationship that you have in your life. Friendships, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your family, and how all of those dynamics and structures play a part in your mental well-being.
I want to pivot to this TikTok that I shared with the group because it's a interesting reflection of the conversation around mothers and children and how children grow up and then, you know, they get out onto their own, and sometimes a mother or a parent is left feeling like my children don't show up for me the way that I thought that they would. And a lot of the connections that they find is that the children didn't receive what they needed from their mother or from their parents when they were a child. And so now their connection or lack of connection with their mother or parent is a direct reflection of how their needs were not met. And so now the mother is like, my needs as a mother aren't being met now. And the accountability that mothers have to say like, I gave you what I thought you needed, but it's not necessarily what you needed. It's what I thought you needed. And I wanted to kind of like, we wanted to kind of talk about what that is that like true? Is that a real thing? Is that like, what is that connection between what children need. Like you were saying earlier on, like I want my kids to grow up. I give them choices. I want them to know when they go out, my daughter screamed, who are they going to end up with? Like these things, how you would expect to have a relationship with your children later on too. And like, what is that connection? Like, is there a connection?
Oh my gosh.
I know it's loaded. It's loaded. It's a very
No,
deep.
it's loaded, but like of course there's a huge connection between who we are as children and who we will become as parents. And in any relationship that we have, like the way that we learn to interact with the people in our lives and the people who love us or the people we care for or care for us is going to be a direct reflection of how we, when the tables are turned, will care for other people in our lives, which is why we kind of repeat a lot of the same traumas or a lot of the same traditions as parents with our own children that we had when we were younger and that we had with our parents. So if your parenting style is a little less hands-on, or is a little more hands-on, and that's the way your child learns to cope and like work within that family structure, then when the tables are turned, and maybe the tables kind of turn as you get older, and this is a whole other topic, but then you become kind of the caretaker for your own parents. And whatever you learned how to care for someone when you were young is what you're going to replicate as an adult. I think that as parents, and as children, as once they get older, we just have a responsibility to not place our expectations on other people, even our parents. Like, especially, I can think back to my own, my own experience and not having my mom quite meet my expectations of who I thought she was going to be for me, especially after having kids, and like coming to this realization that she never signed up to be who I thought she was going to be. And just learning to be just learning to be open and making sure that as we kind of move through these different changes and these different times in our life, we are managing and shifting the expectations around the relationship and making sure we're meeting our parents where they're at. But everything that we do as a child, and everything, our environment and all that we experience is going to have a direct reflection on who we are as parents and adults. And that doesn't mean that it can't change, because through therapy and through self-work and help and growth and resources, we can learn to do things differently. But at the core of it, who we are, our foundation and our traditions kind of remain the same. So we have to make a conscious effort to shift and change that, or a lot of what we have learned and absorbed as children it will certainly play out in our relationships as we get older.
I feel like that expectation part is such a game changer. I feel like that was my prayer for 2024, was like, God, help me to release the expectations I put on myself, but also on other people. And it's really allowed me to, I don't know, just enjoy people at the capacity that they can show up. But I do think that with my mom and dad, so my dad wasn't there growing up. And then my mom, so obviously she was single mom of all three of us. And so there was her working a lot, and then she was a screamer as well. And it was just very uncomfortable. But now that I'm a mom, I'm sure we can all relate to this. Now that I'm a mom, it actually allowed me to meet my mom where she's at and just have more compassion. So like just motherhood in general. But my therapist, I was telling her a little more recently, I was like, I'm trying to find new ways to connect with my mom. And she was telling me the importance of creating experiences that feed my mom, but also feed me. Because what I was doing is I was wanting to just be that child and be that woman that I just want to see my mom happy. And that was never my job. Like, and I still have to catch myself till this day. But I do feel like now we have such a stronger relationship because of the releasing of expectation. And I have to remind myself of releasing that expectation like every day.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know. I don't feel like it's you just make a decision thing, at least not for myself.
Right.
You
It
know?
takes practice.
Yeah.
It takes practice, and it goes both ways, right? Because our parents have plenty of expectations for us as we get older and grow into adulthood and go through different life changes. But you can't control your parents' expectations of you and what they think you're supposed to do or who they think you're supposed to be or how you're supposed to raise your children.
Yep.
The only thing you can control is how you handle and deal
Right.
with and cope with your parents. And when you have too many expectations for people and our parents especially, which we put them on a pedestal, you know, we just expect them to know how we feel and know how to help us and know how to support us, and we get so disappointed when they miss the mark. And it's really, really hurtful. And so, like you said, when you release some of those expectations, it really, and meet them where they are. And like often when you really think about it and you think about who your parent was growing up, they're probably not that different than
Who they are now.
than what you experienced when you were younger. You're just seeing them through a new lens. And so at the end of the day, relinquishing a lot of those expectations will help with the disappointment sometimes and feeling let down, and it'll free up space for you to create new traditions and new things that are good for you.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's what happens is now it's like we can go get a beer, or the other day we went skating and it's like, oh, you kind of cool. You kind of cool.
I know with my parents, I've never had an expectation of them, and I know that sounds very weird, but I think that's just my personality. Like, I just think I was born knowing that people were going to disappoint me, but I continuously challenge them. And so that's the thing, like with my mom and dad, I don't get too disappointed. Like, my dad actually disappointed me recently because I was surprised because I thought we were past this point. And I was like, okay, we're back here again. But really, I just continuously challenge them. And I would tell people, like, if that's something that's important to you, like, release the expectation of it actually changing. But if you need to say it, then name the thing. You know, like, I'll tell my dad, like, I need you to show up more. Or even with my mom, I'll never forget, I was getting married. And I had in my mind like this whole, like, I was the first daughter to get married, and I'm the third child, or third daughter anyway. My sister passed away, and my other sister, she actually got married, but like secretly, and didn't tell any of us. It was weird. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna have this whole moment. My mom's gonna go with me, like, getting dresses and stuff. And my mom is very much the type of person who only wants to do what she kind of wants to do vibe, which is weird because I used to think she was like that girl that would do all the things. But just like you said, I realized, oh no, we were just doing all the things she liked. And so now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, you haven't really changed much. So she didn't go with me. And I was heartbroken because I was like, you're not going to go with me to get a dress? She's like, I don't really want to do that. That's like not my thing. And I was like, it doesn't need to be your thing. It's like, I'm getting married. And she was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so I realized even in that moment is when I really like let go. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with my friends. And when my mom wants to show up, however she wants to show up, that's what I'm going to receive from her. And we typically have a good relationship because of that, because I already know, like, I'm going to do the things that I need to do for myself and create those moments within myself. And I typically ask my daughters now too, like, what do you need from me? Even my oldest, when she was going prom, I'm like, do you want me to go with you? Want me to look for your dress? She's like, yes, come on. Like, but I make sure that I also ask them what they're needing of me, because I don't want to relive my traumas through them either. Like, showing up for them in ways that they don't actually need, because that's not what my mom did for me. So it's really hard, but I do think that, like, having conversations as a mother with your children repetitively can help break that cycle too.
I love that. I agree. Is like getting them involved in how we're being raised. You know, I love a check-in.
Yeah.
I love a, how you guys feeling?
Speaking of check-ins, what is happening over there, Cody?
She's crying?
She's crying a lot. Oh, babe, what's wrong?
Now I'm laughing. But okay, so I've realized something, that whenever we talk about parents, this is fun, but I get a little triggered.
Yeah.
And so I'm like trying not to cry, but I'm also like, why am I crying? We're like, but I sit and I think about, like, how would my dad show up now? So that's where my mind went, and that's why I'm like uncontrollably crying.
Yeah.
Any Hoosiers?
Hoosier.
No, I mean, because none of this is like upsetting. It's
Yeah,
just like, okay, this is what my mom does. Oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
Can I?
So yeah, go ahead. You
was
know, I
gonna
don't
ask
care.
you, do you think that does that put a lot of pressure on your mom though, or a lot of pressure, like a pressure on you to put on your mom? Because if your dad is not here, then in any way that she's not showing up, it will highlight what your dad may have done, right? But then it doesn't give you an opportunity to fully appreciate her and her wholeness because she's like competing with someone.
I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Because remember, I had, and Nina, you know, I think we've talked about my parents. You know, when my parents got divorced, I obviously spent, or as I've shared with you all, I've spent very individual time with both of them, and so I know them very well. Like I never put them on a pedestal because I truly saw them highs and lows,
Yeah.
and so everything I know about them and appreciate about them is just what it is. And so I know and understand my mom fully, and our relationship has evolved and changed with like ways in which I don't want to say she doesn't show up for me. Like, as y'all know, you know, she's not the most helpful grandmother, but she's still a loving grandmother. You know what I mean? My dad, I'm more so just like curious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do feel like there were things that he did that I didn't like. You know, my parents got divorced. My dad was like, I'm not trying to be near her. So he wasn't at all the things. But I knew that about him. So I could like laugh about it or be like seriously, you can't come to, I mean, I don't know. He was at the graduations, but you can't come to my significant birthday or whatever because you don't want to be near her. Anyway, so when I just think about now, how would he show up? And so that's where I go to the like, I don't want to call it the dark place, but it's like I can't answer that. So that's all. That's where my mind goes and why I can't like stop crying, even though I'm listening to all of you. It's just crazy.
I want to acknowledge the fact that the relationship with our parents, not going to do it.
Oh wow.
The relationship with our parents is one that I think we forget to take inventory of, that it requires. It's special. It's one like no other, right? Ever. And so it is important that we work. Oh, Lord, girl. It is important that I think we work on it. You know, regret is something that I think people fear in this life for many things. Like, I should have done this, I could have done this, why didn't I do this? You know, we live in this world that makes us think about that. And I think that when it comes to our parents especially, we recognize what really matters, I think, in retrospect, right? Like, it's always 20/20 vision in hindsight. And I think that I understand what you're saying, because you do wonder, like, what could it have been like? I think for me too, even with my mom, because our dynamic growing up was so challenging at times, that when I became a mom, I made it a point to have a conversation with her and say, I do not want whatever this dynamic has been between us to carry over into this relationship, as now you being a grandmother, me being a mother, me having my own children. Like, I need you to respect who I am becoming and who I've become. And I'm not just like your daughter to be, you know, disciplined or told what to do or how to be, you know, because there was definitely always a power struggle with me and my mom. And we've worked on it, and it's still a work in progress, to be honest, you know, but my mom and I have come such a far way. But what I know underneath that is, like, there's love, there's deep love there, even though I knew I didn't necessarily agree with some of the ways my mom disciplined us or spoke to us or didn't try to understand us, because now that I see who she is as a woman and what she's been through, I have the perspective of, oh, you didn't know. You didn't have the ability. You didn't, okay. And I have more compassion. But I feel grateful to have the opportunity to continue to have these conversations, to try to overcome.
Yeah, that's a gift. It's a gift that they're still here. We're able to have this dialogue.
To have
you
the,
know,
to have
like,
the over,
to Cody's point,
to,
is like
to have the peace, to like kind of like, you know
important.
what? That's done.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't matter anymore. I understand you for being that person. I understand why you did that. you know, and how and now I'm understanding how I allow myself to be affected by those things, even if they don't, because, you know, for most of our parents or our moms, sometimes it's like there's like I don't need to change. Like, I can't change. I'm old. I'm set in my ways. Like, all these things. And as a child growing up and wanting to have this evolved perspective of, no, we can always change if we want to. You know, our parents sometimes don't want to hear that, and that can be a trigger for our parents even at that. Like, because they still see us as their children, you know? And so I'm getting to a place where I'm learning to just understand my mom, have compassion, not work and expend my energy to try to change who I want her to be, but also while setting boundaries for myself to how I want my experience to be with her and how I allow myself to be affected. And so I guess to tie it just back up is that it truly is a gift, you know, to like be able to have another opportunity to try to have harmony and peace with our parents. It's really, really important.
I feel like too, something that is so beautiful, and I feel like we all do this as mothers. The way that I parent my children is really a reflection of what I feel like I needed. And I think I told you guys this, there was like this aha moment I had maybe like a month or two ago. And I just started crying. And I was like, oh, the expectation and this visual that I had of my mom, of how I felt she was supposed to show up, was really me seeing myself in the future. Because that's the way that I show up now as a mom. But the more that I parent and get my children involved in the parenting experience, the easier it is for me to communicate with my parents. So I can tell my mom, hey, this is what I need.
Right.
I can tell my dad, hey, this really hurt my feelings, but this is what I need.
Right.
But I'm like, the way that we have children and the way that they make us reflect on everything, everything.
What you said is really important about the evolution of our relationship with our parents. And what you're describing is like this, it's like our parents are here and we're here and we're trying to get to this place where we can both see each other as whole humans in life. And when it comes to our parents who are so accustomed to living a certain way, and I think it's harder to go backwards.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of our responsibility to have a little bit more.
You all right?
Okay.
Okay.
You need a sip of something?
No, she drank the water. I think that's what did it, because she was leaning to the side while she drank it. Not a little sip. Okay. Nina, sorry.
I don't know what I was
You said it's
saying.
harder to go backwards.
Yeah, it's harder for our parents to go backwards, where we're learning, we're getting all of these new tools.
Yes.
The world is evolving and we're taking in so much more information and we know more.
Yes.
And so we're able to eat, like our adaptation is a little bit easier, whereas like the old saying, trying to teach an old dog new tricks, right? And so you know, maybe they don't ever meet us at that 50% line, but maybe they can get down to 75 and we can get up to 50 to 75 and then we can meet somewhere or meet somewhere in the middle.
And not want to feel like you have to punish your parents. Like, I think going back to that TikTok, like where moms are like, you know, my child doesn't call, they don't show up for me. And it's the kids being like, oh, like, you know, whatever they have unresolved with their parent, they're unwilling to try to address it or have compassion. And so what they do is they just remove themselves, or they make a conscious decision to take their love or their presence away from their parents as an act of like, I have to, well, you didn't show up for me.
All or nothing.
Yeah,
It's
because
all or
your
nothing.
parents can learn through you. My dad continuously gets better and calls me and is like, oh my God, I see what you were saying. I'm so sorry for X, Y, and Z. And so, like you said, I just think it's important to remember that your parents can learn from you and grow through you, teaching them a new way to love. Cody, you gonna be able to wrap it up?
I can wrap it up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's easy. We have run out of time for our question of the week, but we love that Nina came and visited us today.
It was so fun.
thankful.
Yeah, and it was good to share a little bit about you, but also for you to be our therapist for
make
the
us
day.
That was not me.
It was unexpected. Okay, that was unexpected.
No, it's hard. We're like the sandwich generation right now,
Yes.
and that's, like I said in the beginning. I said that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, it's tough, and we're all trying to navigate it the best we can. So
Yeah.
this was really great. I had a good time with you ladies.
I'm glad
Thanks for coming.
Definitely took some mental notes today. I'll be like, all right, lead by example. Lead by example. Don't turn up. Don't snatch nobody up today if you don't want them to snatch up nobody outside.
Turn up and talk about it later.
Yeah, okay.
Turn up, talk about it.
I like it. I like it.
That's fair. Okay, take nothing away, but turn up and talk about it later. And yeah, I hope you're listening to us wherever you get your podcast, and that you watch this episode on Black Love's YouTube page, and that you subscribe to Black Love's YouTube page, as well as subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening. And that's a wrap on the Mama's Den.
Thank you, Nina.
I love your name.